Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 497, and today we're doing battle with Thresh and Nasus. And so last season, last Eternal season, I should say, I really kind of drove home the point that I needed to get Thresh Nasus into my toolkit. This is one of these decks that tends to annihilate pretty much everything that we like to play. It's always exceptionally good against these kind of mid-rangey aggro decks that I typically bring to these events. And it's like whenever I'm looking at matchup tables for our deck lists running into any event, it has to have been like the past five open events in a row to where it's like you start looking at matchup tables and you're like, oh, I just have to ban Nasus every single time. Like this is a serious weak point in our lineup. Like hopefully we just don't run into him because we cannot beat it. And it's not like we can't beat it because it's a 60-40 matchup. It's like we can't beat it because it's an 80-20 matchup. And so it's one of these things I've always been wanting to get back into my game. There's a concept I talk about that's been very important to us coming from the space of expedition or people that are newly getting into constructed, and that's the concept of muscle memory. Like I've never played a game like Runeterra to where the decks of old stay relevant for so long. If you need to, catch a little bit of flavor of that, you can just look at scouts in the previous season. Although the scouts from Rising Tides and the scouts from this most recent season weren't very similar. You still have that opportunity to kind of understand what the deck's key concepts are going to be doing, right? They're going to make some trades with Mirai Wardens. They're going to challenge some units down with a Misfortune on the board, and then they're going to try and ramp up hard with the flipping Misfortune and flipping the Quins and stuff. There's a lot of similar play patterns, even though Champion Strength wasn't around. And so one of the decks that, really hasn't fallen in for me has been Thresh Nasus. Last season, I was really interested in adding this into the toolkit, both from the perspective of understanding the matchup, but also potentially playing it in future opens. And with this new open coming within a matter of less than 2 weeks, I want to kind of see if this is one of these decks we can't really kind of fit in our play style, kind of like Jack's Orn is something we play in like every single open now, and have that kind of muscle memory for it. So even if it's not good now, maybe as the next set's released, the new Shadow Isles champion comes out, and then Thresh has the opportunity to kind of rise again. He has the opportunity to ascend, if you will. And so Thresh Nasus, if you're not super familiar with it, this is a very a kind of aggressively slanted deck. It's not something that you typically get out of the Shadow Isles, but this deck is very capable of putting forth a very aggressive front early on, with the Bakai Reaper being the kind of star of the show, if you will, oftentimes getting up to 5 or 6 or 7 attack in the early game. But what you're going to see is we're going to develop this kind of very meaty early game board of things like Bakai Reaper and then the Escaped Abomination coming out of the Cursed Keeper. Once we get these units on board, we can very easily navigate our opponent's defenses by hooking down a bunch of their units with the Blighted Caretakers, and then we can have our opponent on the back foot in terms of tempo from that point forward. If we come in and crash into our opponents for 10 or 12 points of damage on a turn 5 or turn 4 attack, leaves them very short in terms of health resources, and then they have to play on the back foot the rest of the way. And so as it kind of cycles back to our next attack token, we can potentially find ourselves able to just completely KO them out of the game with a board full of 3 and 4 attack units. And so it has these kind of aggressively oriented angles to it. But the other thing that this deck really has going for it is if you hit your opponent for like 5 or 6 points of damage, you're just threatening to kill them the rest of the game. The entirety of the game, they now have to worry that you're going to drop this 15-15 Nasus and just throw him to the face with atrocity. And so he's a very, very challenging unit to navigate in terms of board-based style, fair decks, if you will, just trying to navigate combats, given that it does have this highly stat-motivated, board-centric style. It has lots of good board control elements with the challengers and the hate spikes and the vile feasts, but it also just has this ridiculous top end with Nasus kind of coming out of nowhere. And so the last thing I like to kind of call out with this deck is, again, it's not a control deck. I think it's very interesting in the sense that if you look at a deck, say like Heimerdinger Nora, as to where it's a Shadow Isles based removal deck, it tries to control the board with a bunch of units. That's what both of these decks are able to do. But when you look at a deck like Heimerdinger Nora, it just loses to all the Cosmic Call decks, right? It doesn't have enough late game power to fight through decks like Cosmic Call. It's just, your opponent is eventually going to develop a big board of celestial units while you're just like herpity-derpiting around with a board full of shitty units that Nora generated through portals. But the decks with like Thresh Nasus, you can get this big 15/15 spell shielded unit on the board and just atrocity it to the face. And so that's one of the very kind of interesting points with decks like Thresh Nasus is they have that opportunity to just basically win any game if your opponent doesn't have like a very specific set of removal spells to come in and try and take him down. And so this is who we'll be doing battle with today. A very interesting choice, especially as coming out of the past standard meta to where I think I was looking at Boulevard's notes. Boulevard always puts detailed notes up on the makeup of the second days of the opens, and I think that there were like 6 Shadow Isles decks across the entirety of NA. And maybe it was the entirety of the open event. I don't entirely remember, but if you have 64 players bringing 3 decks apiece, that's what, 6 times 3? That's 180 some decks, almost 200 decks, and only like 5 or 6 of those had any kind of Shadow Isles representation. And so that's kind of interesting if like moving into this next meta, to where the kind of key ways to take a Nasus off of the board are doing stuff like Vengeance Vile Feast. So the Vile Feast pops the spell shield, Vengeance gets the kill, or you have bounce spells like out of Ionia, which was also a fairly non-existent faction, and you're able to just keep sending him back to hand with tag outs or homecomings or whatever. And with those factions being near the bottom of the list in terms of play rate, it does give the big dog a bit of an opportunity to come in and shine. And so kind of just keeping that in the back of my head as well, as we're moving towards a meta that is likely going to see tons and tons of Janna and Janna Bilgewater. Janna Bilgewater is not a deck that has a way to actively kill a Nasus. If you want to try and deal 14 points of damage through a spell shield to Nasus with your burn spells, even if your burn spells do 5 damage each, it's still quite a task to get him off the board. And so I'm interested. I'm always interested. We'll see how this goes. And so let's go ahead, jump on into battle. I checked the pay-to-win price on this, and we're good. We're all paid up. Surprisingly, everything within this deck is all premium. The Nasuses, the Threshes, all of these Shadow Isles cards are. It's kind of wild to see that pop up, but that's what we got going for us today. Let's see what we can do. Looks like we're up against Pirates, doing battle with the Classics. And so this is a space to where Vile Feast plays out fantastically. I would like to get some more early game stuff on the board, and so I think we'll get rid of everything except the Vile Feast. The kind of pain points that you run into with a deck like Thresh Nasus are picking up all of your activators but not having any of the sacrificial cards, or you pick up all the sacrificial cards without any of the activators. But the way that you typically fail is if you have the hand full of activators without the stuff to actually sacrifice. So if we have a handful of Spirit Leeches and Hate Spikes and Cursed Keepers and the like, those are the places where we're going to kind of come in and fail. So here, still reasonable enough. I'll go ahead and take the Legion Saboteur off the board, keep our health total nice and strong, and ooh, that sucks just having to add in the additional 1 health unit. And so as far as this goes, I think we're going to be able to fill out the board just fine, but like the 2 points of damage doesn't feel too bad right now. The thing that I'm kind of thinking in my head in terms of pain points with this board is Twisted Fate. And so I don't want to be put into this spot to where we have the 0 health, the 0 health first wave, the 0 health prey. We play the Fading Icon. He has the 1 health. The new dude has the 1 health. We have the Spirit Leech in hand. This is a hand just ready to get rocked by a Twisted Fate red card. And so I'm fine to get the Fading Icon down. I don't want to trade him with any of these units, but we most certainly want to be clearing out some of our 1 healthers and trying to get a little bit more board presence. It can be a little painful here not having any of our bigger plays. Let's see if old Steve is going to come to town. A little scared. A little scared. There he is. Yeah, can't do anything about that. Alright, so we're gonna have to play this Spirit Leech just as a blocker. Like, this is one of these spots to where, you know, every point of health matters against a deck like Pirates, and I'm curious if we're gonna come to regret not saving that 2 points of damage from that attack on the previous one, since we weren't able to get usage out of any of our praise. Let's see. He's got to add a unit to this board here. If he just passes, we're going to pass it back, and he's not going to get to add anything. And so it's kind of an awkward point for him. He needs to put, you know, something down. It is going to be staring down a Thresh. And then it feels like to me he's probably just sitting on a Misfortune, but we just have to eat that, I think. We'll go ahead and take the Twisted Fate off of the board. So if we draw another Vile Feast or something, we can still take down the Mirai Warden, but I feel like this is most certainly a Misfortune coming down, and he's like, oh no, I can't lose Misfortune in combat here. But that's okay. We're very close to turning this around. If we don't get killed right here and we get the... Oh, we're so dead. I was gonna say, if we actually get Nasus on board and we don't get killed here, we have a very real chance of crashing through on this next turn. But yep, see, look at this. Look at this point we're at. We're at the 2 health that we could have shaved off on the previous attack if we just blocked with that prey. I mean, I guess we should have done it, but there's no guarantees we could have won that game. But we still, we would have definitely had a shot between the Nasus chunking in for a bunch of damage and then having Atrocity in hand. Ooh, it's tough, but GG. On to the next one. But that's one of the kind of interesting things with Thresh Nasus is there's a lot of editing you can do to the deck in terms of the numbers that you're bringing. If you expect that you're going to be in a much more control-heavy meta, you can look to bring additional Rites of Negation, additional copies of Vengeance. If you think that you're wanting to go out of your way to do well against decks like Pirates, then you can play the full sets of Vile Feast. You can start to play things like Withering Wail. Like, there's just an incredible amount of variety that you can get to tune these decks back and forth, and you know, give yourself the edge against something like Pirates, or give yourself the edge against a more mid-rangey offering, if you will. All right, reasonable enough start. I guess opponents playing dragons. That is a Shyvana. I saw this the Shyvana, this corrupted Shyvana to the left, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. It's just some dumb Shadow Isles champion. But turns out that was not factually correct. All right, we're gonna get into some shenanigans here. We'll go ahead and put the damage onto this Dragon Guard. We're going to get the Dark Enthrall back. Then on this next turn, we can play the Blighted Caretaker, killing off the Dark Enthrall, and then look to put the Darkened Bloodletters on to one of the Saplings. So we're going to be getting the 3 attack we need to now take down the Ruined Dragon Guard, and then we'll have that leftover unit to sacrifice to something later, maybe. It's a big old Shyvana, though. I give her credit for that. Oh, that's fucked up, dude. All right, well, we're still gonna bring it in. I just intend on vengeancing this Shyvana next turn. So let's go ahead and send in the squad, get these damages in.
Come this way.
Dark and Aegis, what a bunch of nonsense. Getting in the way of our brilliant plans. Alright, let's have some fun. In with the vengeance. There shouldn't be anything that can stop it. Like, even if there's not, I think we're fine to just take 8 damage here. Right? A lot of times you'll want to put a blocker in front of this thing, so if he has a counter spell or something, he's not able to take your not able to take your unit or deal the damage directly to your face. Not quite the case here, though. I think we can safely take all that damage. And a Kindred. Alright, so I think we'll want to switch over to Thresh now. We do have the 2 copies of Nasus in hand, but Kindred acing all of our units is ultimately super annoying. Interesting. So I have to assume our Thresh is just safe at this point, right? It should be very challenging. I guess he could have a hate spike to hate spike down the Thresh, but I think we're safe. Hang on, let's slow our roll on this one. Let's make our caretaker a good attacker as well. Dark and Aegis. What a bummer that guy's been. How bad is this? He's got a 5/4 on the board? I don't think we care. We're just getting so close to the lethals here. Okay. Thresh up to like 4. What's he at? Oh, he's up to flips. Nice. That's how you get the big dog on board. It's going to be a little tough for Thresh to actually survive this next turn, but opponent is going to have to devote a bunch of resources into trying to actually get the kill on him and remove him. If not, he's just dead, which is always pretty cool. No complaints there. Okay, we're just gonna keep passing. Is this really what's happening? He's got to play something.
The breath takes, the waters give.
All right, fine. I'll take the bait. I'll add a card. I mean, I still want to get. It would be nice to get this Nasus on board, but yeah, it's like he has to be playing some kind of card here. So what's our angle for the next turn? It's like we can still get the flip onto Nasus if we hate spike and play the thing. What's he called? Zolani. But if we play hate spike now, we can't do all of that. So I guess we have to just let our Thresh die. We'll follow up with the Nasus, then see if he can't still get a good combat next turn.
We stand in the footprints of paths long trodden.
Blighted Caretaker is very interesting. Gives us the hook out of combat for some of this stuff without being as super all in. It's kind of close. I don't know. I just losing Thresh is kind of a bummer. We have ways to give him like bonus attacks. So if he tries to say Cataclysm into Thresh, we can hate spike for some slays and give him some bonuses. I mean, maybe that's good enough. But with Thresh's Fearsome, we can just hook this shit out of combat and let him probably get in unimpeded. Can't do anything about a crumble. Well, we can hate spike, right? I guess that's something. I guess that's something. Alright, well, I don't think we should let him do that kind of nonsense again. Let's go ahead and send the attackers in. Thresh at the end. If he's got a Vengeance to get the takedown, fine. I think we're okay. And we were. GG. On to the next one.
Patience and fortitude outlast all things.
So we'll say with this list, if you've been following along with the Champions Draft Series, we played Majin Bay this week, and Majin played the same lineup every week. He's brought Zoe, Jace, Cosmic Call, which is fine. Like to give you a bit of a spoiler, like my thoughts on his lineup are that's kind of okay in the sense that the top Cosmic Call deck is with Viktor, and then the next best one is going to be with who do we got here? Viktor, Seraphine, Janna. Then the next one is going to be with Aphelios, and then Jace is just kind of like, he's a PNZ champion, giving me access to PNZ cards, but he's not really my first choice. And so it's like that's kind of a bit of a saving grace there, although the matchup is pretty nightmarish for the things that we're doing. He's also been playing Rise with Master Yi, and then he's been playing this kind of sucks. He's been playing Thresh Nasus. And so part of the reason I wanted to bring in Thresh Nasus today is just to get a little bit of a feel for the matchup, see how things go in terms of the other side of the table and how we want to kind of react to what he's doing. So that's part of the reason it's here. I'm curious what he does. He played the exact same lineup the first week and then the second week. And then in the second week, Cephalopod came in and just kind of hard targeted his Rise list. If you're gonna bring the same lineup every week, people are just gonna find ways to pick on one deck and try and beat that one deck. And Cephalopod did that. He brought some kind of ridiculous anti-landmark strategy as a means to taking down Rise. And so I'm curious to see if Majin Bay pivots this week to something a little bit differently, but we'll talk about that more in the next video. In terms of this one, we'll try to stick a little bit more to our friends at hand. But we should be able to get a pretty aggro-heavy draw going here. If we stop with these 4 units we have on the board, we can kill something off with the Blighted Caretaker and then just take our way with some hooks. And I think that's the way I want this to go. I'm going to just load up these Dark Enthralls. And if he wants to get into combat with these, fine. Otherwise, he's really kind of low on stuff to do. Can't imagine he wants to be spending real removal spells onto Dark Enthralls.
Have you heard my daughter? She's very talented. I will find someone.
All right, but the stuff we just ran into here, this is one of the major problems, one of the major issues you'll run into with this deck is trying to navigate the board and using the 6 slots to the best you can. And then it also comes down to, losing these units at certain points in time as to where, if you manage the board wrong and you only get 2 saplings, or you only get 1 sapling instead of 2, is that okay or not? So, a lot of interesting things happening with this. But reasonable enough stuff here. I'm not at all worried about him coming in and killing us. The stuff he's doing is not particularly threatening. I will try and take the Acoustician down so he doesn't get the free spells, but we have a lot of ways to come in and kill off these Dark Enthralls so we can get the Zolanis back if we need to. Right, we can add Thresh here. We could Wings in the Wave to kill off a Dark Enthrall. Get the Zolani back. Not quite ready to do something like that, but there's some potential. Maybe we do want to do that. Like, if we want to, say, kill the Janna, or attempt to kill the Janna is probably a better way to say it. We can Wings in the Wave down one of these Dark Enthralls, pick up the equipment, put the equipment on Thresh. Maybe this is good. There's also a non-zero chance we just kill him next turn, right? Our Thresh is a 9/9 facing 8 health, and he only has 3 units, and so if we do come in and get this Thresh hook into Janna, it's going to be pretty tough for him to have a 3-power unit on the board to block the Fearsome with. So let's see how this shakes out. I'm not certain I like the sequencing we just did. Curious if we shouldn't have just put Nasus on the board, since he's now, you know, pretty heavily incentivized to interact with this Thresh. He could play like a preemptive concussive palm or something as a means to protect the Janna. I don't know. Maybe it's okay. See, he's coming out here doing crazy shit to make sure this this Thresh doesn't get to take down the Janna. But he's got to get the flip now. He needs one of his cards in hand to be a reduced coster to get the 6th one for Janna. Scary, get the big dog on board. As Nasus's mind declined, he clung to the strongest memory, that of his brother Renekton. Oh shit, I didn't know they were brothers. Renekton's not even a dog. Renekton's he's a reptile. Huh. Interesting. Spending the day in the hospital to see how that one played out. Huh. Maybe they're gods risen from the desert sands or something, right? Not a traditional birth. Probably about how it went, you know. Alright, so he kills the unit to get his Janna to flip. He has a way to survive the round. But hopefully this is enough to carry us through. Is this going to be some bullshit Steel Tempest or something? the nonsense you run into playing against Seraphine? Gruesome theater. Okay. So he gets the Seraphine flip. That was a Spectral Riders. I'm sure he would have much rather played that on our turn, but we'll have to see. And so we have some interesting angles here, right? I think we are still kind of stuck just going to say Thresh. We can add Thresh, we can add Dark Enthrall, we can play a Darkened Bloodletters. And try and get in some damage that way. It's like I'm fairly concerned about this next turn in the sense of not open attacking. Maybe it's okay. It's like, do you really want to give your opponent the chance to play slow spells with the flipped Seraphine on board? Not really. Not really. But my big concern with this is, so, you know, we hook Seraphine with Thresh, Nasus gets hit with Concussive Palm, and then we're just short on damage. Like, I don't think it's good enough. I think we have to try and press through. I'm going to add the Zolani. We can put the Bloodletters onto the Dark Enthrall to give us a few additional angles to try and take this down. That's fine. That's fine. He's only got 3 mana now. Mariam rolls through. Alright, so we'll hook in the hook in the Seraphine so that he doesn't have a blocker for Thresh. No, again, if he has a Concussive Palm or something, that's kind of annoying and awkward, but hopefully the Zolani gives us enough at this point now. Yeah, we're still short on damage. 16 was a lot, I guess. Alright. He has survived. Let's try to see if we could, like, use the boxes enough to threaten this Seraphine. It's not. This is we got a lot of work to do here. All right. I guess not that much work. You just put the Nasus on board and they call it a day.
We grow wiser with each
I do love me a Zolani though. There's it is interesting talk of I like the oh my gosh, what's it called? It's like the only podcast in Runeterra anymore now. It's not informed knowledge. It's the 3 mana card where both players draw 2 is the name of the podcast. It's with Buy Attack and Drissoth, and typically with a Kaido. Grandpa Roji's made an appearance on a couple of them when Drissoth didn't feel like playing the game. It's very fantastically done, but they went on a bit of a big discussion about Thresh Nasus on there. Or not Thresh Nasus, that's what we're playing about. Aatrox Kane and Aatrox Vayne on their most recent one, and it's like you're really just wanting the 3 equipment in your Aatrox deck, right? You just want the Bloodletters and the quick attack, and then the Anaka. Hope you know which ones those are. But no, it was an interesting space. Hearing them talk about it, and it's entirely spot on. Those are just the actual good ones. Let's see, a Cursed Keeper turns up. I'm on board. I was planning on doing some Dark and Bloodletter shenanigans, but with the Cursed Keeper coming in, we were definitely going to pivot over to this Ravenous Butcher. Alright, I don't suspect he's going to trade any of these Acorns for our Dark Enthrall. That'd be kind of cool if he does, but I don't think that's really on the table. And then we'll have some more shenanigans to continue on with these, right? As we want to get Thresh up and running, we can start to put the Bloodletters on the prey, kill the prey with the Wings in the Wave, and then still have the equipment come back. But that might be a little bit too slow. What's this guy even trying to do? PNZ with the Acorns. I'm a little worried about what's about to happen to us. Like, are we just going to get ruinated here? We at least have some defense against the ruination, and that we have the Bloodletters, and it works so well in these spaces, but it's still kind of scary. Go hard. All right. I'm just going to choose to not play around the Ruination. Let's get the Bloodletters onto the Dark Enthrall, get these additional stats on board. And we can continue in with Thresh. What is this guy doing? I'm at a loss for what's happening here. Alright, so all of his Acorns got tied into a Vengeance. That's absolutely fine. Can't imagine that's what the deck is trying to do, right? You're out here getting all of these hits in with Acorn. You want to be taking the mana off of your champion's strength, and it's just hitting a Vengeance. Like that does not seem like the game plan, especially with the Hexcore Foundry hitting the board. We can still get quite a bit going this next turn. It's a very easy round to I shouldn't say it's going to be easy to get Thresh flipped this turn, but there's certainly a lot of opportunity for that to happen. Getting 1 kill off of the prey, 2 kills off of the ephemeral saplings. Oh no, what a bummer. Just losing out on the Blighted Caretaker. That's not how that was supposed to happen. That's been the second go hard. Not quite ready to pack our bags. What do we got ourselves up to? 4 ticks up on Thresh. He's close. It's getting close. All right, let's get him in here. There's a little bit of worry. I still don't know what this guy's doing beyond casting a bunch of go-hards. I mean, we're still not completely out of the woods in the face of something like Ruination, but I don't know. Without a little bit more info on what this guy's actually trying to do, I don't know if I should feel ultimately confident or or worried about what's about to hit.
Everything.
Let's just kill off the unit. This is a little dangerous, right? If he kills the unit, we don't get to draw the champion, and we're almost maxed out on gems anyways. Maybe we should have just gone ahead and sacrificed the gem to help ensure that we get the champion either way. Would have probably been the safer way to do it.
The mortals know what awaits them. Few can know what death and eternity hold in store.
All right, yeah, I don't think we're worried about these things. We can go ahead and hate spike this this 3-power unit so that it can't block either of our Threshes. We're about to have 2 Threshes on the board, and so I don't think we're going to need them, but should give us a nice safety net for that next turn.
Outlast all things.
All right, though. Coming up to game number 5. Let's get ourselves the 5th battle in, and then we'll call it a day. Been not a bad set of games. You know, I felt pretty confident in all these games that we've run into, and it's like if you're thinking of this to come into a Eternal Open, to where the event is so super wide open. Like the last one, the kind of top deck to target was Action Samira, but you were only running into Action Samira like 10% of the time, or in the open you were running into it. I think we probably ran into it like 2 or 3 times, and so if you were really looking to target down a deck, it's very challenging to do. So I kind of like the wide net that that Thresh Nasus is good against. So how are we doing this? We have a couple of options into how fast we want to try and attack this board. I keep eyeballing this Cursed Keeper for the next turn, and that's kind of where I want to go, but we also have the Cursed Keeper into Ravenous Butcher combo. Just take it a little slower. Like, one of these things that's always been kind of interesting with the Cursed Keeper is he does give you that kind of like AoE protection. Like I mean, I have to imagine this deck is doing something with the Ruination as well, and having access to just a little bit of defense is kind of nice. But we can take it with this way. You know, if he doesn't want to add a unit to the board and just get domed for the full amount, that's kind of fine. Getting very close to the lethal. Then we do have the combo in hand this time with the Atrocity Nasus. So, you know, this Nasus does not have to get very big to represent the lethal, especially on this next turn, to where, like here, we can add Cursed Keeper, Fading Icon, Ravenous Butcher, and then just have like 9 attack come through very easily. It's just so close to it. There's the drains. That'll slow us down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and play this guy in case we want to open. I think that's not a real necessity at this point. Ooh, Thresh turned up. Never mind. That makes it a little easier. Sunken Temple. He's got all the card draws in here. So is whenever you hear, I was thinking to that podcast, insider knowledge. There we go. It's on Spotify and on Apple and all that stuff. There you go. Get him the get him the proper recognition. But he'll talk about his time he spends on Reddit and people talking about decks, and the casual players just don't like killing their opponent. It's like I kind of knew that it was a thing, but it wasn't something that I really kind of materialized. But as you look at a game like this, the opponent is not doing a whole lot in terms of actually trying to kill us here. Getting the Hexcore Foundry Sunken Temple combo on the board. I think this falls into exactly what he's talking about. But pretty reasonable stuff here. I could see an argument to try and add some stuff to the board, because we can be short of lethal, right? This is kind of like that Seraphine game as well, as to where if he has some kind of targetable for Nasus, then we don't have the lethal this turn. And do we really want to go into this opponent on their next turn to where they have both the Foundry and the Sunken Temple down for 2 turns, but we have the big thing in hand and the Rite of Negation. I think this should be enough to just finish things off. Yeah, let's at least not be greedy about it. We'll sacrifice the mana gem and try and finish the game. All right, and there it is. GG. Well played. Not a bad set of battles. So we can pull this up, talk about it a little bit more. And so again, I feel like this really hit on a lot of the high notes I was wanting to talk about in terms of Thresh Nasus. And, a lot of these games you come out just like really, really aggressively. And so if your opponent is trying to fuck around with Sunken Temples and stuff, you do have these like really high-powered aggressive draws with the Bakai Reaper and the Cursed Keeper is giving you those really high-powered units early, and so if your opponent's doing the fucking around, then you can take them right to the find out stage pretty quick. The mid-rangey kind of decks, we didn't get to see those in action today, but playing up against stuff like elites and having elites try and deal with a Nasus is a pretty tall order for them to fight through. And so those decks it has, a lot of power against. And then as you get into the really slow Cosmic Call into the Spectrum, while Cosmic Call is not a spectacular matchup, you can just, oops, I won the game with the atrocity factor. And so it's a very interesting deck in that sense. And also, if you're wanting to say target down something like Jax Ornn, then you can move in on Quietus. If you're wanting to target down something like Pirates or really aggressively oriented lineups, you can start to add in more Vile Feasts, and you can add in more things like Withering Wail and the other drain kind of spells. And then if you're looking to, grind it a little bit harder, then maybe you want to start including Vengeances or include a third Darkened Bloodletters. It's like you just have a ton of options in terms of the deck building with this deck that you can really pivot it and tune it and align it with what you're looking to have a best of 3 lineup do. And so it's most certainly good enough to climb up the ladder. Like you should be able to hit Masters with this fairly quickly if you're looking to go from Platinum to Masters before the Open gets here. And then in best of 3, it's a very interesting option as well. And so, yeah, like I said earlier, this is a deck I think I'm going to be playing more and more of over the course of the next season. It's something I would like to get comfortable with as a potential deck to bring to the Open, since it just plays so well into so many of the decks. And then as we had kind of mentioned about Mage and Bay's lineup earlier, in the sense that if you are taking this to the Open and you do run into triple Cosmic Call, you are at least able to ban out the good one, right? You get to ban out the P and Z Cosmic Call deck, and then you only have to deal with the other 2 leftovers, which can be real decks, but they function a lot differently when you're looking at something like Samira Zoe Cosmic Call compared to the P and Z versions that are much more control oriented, and you can kind of abuse that aggression a little bit more with your removal spells here, and having things like Blighted Caretaker into Zoes and Samiras can be nice as well. So very interesting deck. It seems to be standing the tides of time pretty well. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bustin. We thank you for being here.